think in the interest of them and in the state of Maine, football across the state, I think it's probably a good idea.
And these schools are going to get a chance to show if they're improving. I think Washington Academy, which is still in Class D in the North, is going to play, I think, Trape in the longest road trip ever. Trape and Kittery going over to East Machias. I think that's 250 miles one way.
Yeah, they might want to fly to that.
And I think they're also playing Telstar, which is also in this Class C. Sockopee Valley is going to play Lisbon, and that's going to be a tough test for them. Certainly, Lisbon, being in the state championship game last year. So they're not just playing each other. Some of these teams are playing, schools that are more established, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, that'll figure out whether you how much you want that program when you're going on trips like that. I mean,
yeah, right. That's true.
But I mean, it just comes to the bottom line. I just think it's easier to pitch the rest of your students, the rest of the people in the community when you have competitive games you can point to and say, hey, come this team where we just lost by 3 the other day. We just lost by 7.
Yeah.
If you're on this team, you can make a difference versus saying, hey, come play football with us. We lost 42-0 last week.
Yeah, well, you've talked to new head coach at Marinka, Walter Polke. How are they adjusting to this?
I mean, they're in the boat, in a similar boat as they were last year. Only like we're saying, they have now that benefit of playing teams that are in the same position as they are. But he said that the whole thing is teaching fundamentals and getting kids to play the right way, to play smart, to be able to play smart at game speed. And he's just making progress with that, and it's just going to help the fact that you're going against the kids in the other team are dealing with the same sorts of issues. So I think it's a good way to go about it all around.
I agree. It's probably the biggest change in high school football in Maine in a generation.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Let's look ahead. A lot of teams in new conferences this year, like we kind of hit on it with the new Class E, the enrollment numbers for each classification shrunk, and so you have school like your league contracted by 2 with Gardner and Nokomis both going to Class C. I think that makes the PTCB just even tougher.
Yeah, it's interesting. You look at the schedule and it comes out and you kind of look and, in your own head you kind of forecast, we can win that. And there's a lot of, like, ooh, that's a tough game. Ooh, that's a tough game. So it's going to be a really, really competitive, division. And also you add crossovers. I mean, certainly Lawrence is playing Winslow and Gardner's playing Winslow, I believe. We're playing Falmouth on Friday night. Certainly a really tough crossover. So you add that in as well, and it's going to be a competitive league. And at the end of the day, 6 out of 8 make it, which I like. Because, the scheduling becomes sort of problematic sometimes in the heel points. I think we're going to touch on that in a little bit. Yes. It's a little different for us as coaches. So I think having 6 out of 8 make it, to me, I like that because you hate it to come down to a scheduling thing where we didn't schedule a tough enough team, and that was sort of out of our hands to a certain extent. So thankfully, hopefully, scheduling isn't the reason a team makes it and another team doesn't. Hopefully, it comes down to who's the best team on the field, and I guess that remains to be seen. But we're hoping so by having 6 out of 8 make it. Yeah,
I like these cross-class games. For example, like you guys are still able to play Gardner, and it counts.
Yes.
Whereas in the past, when you guys were in different leagues, it was an exhibition game.
Yeah.
It would have already been played.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it makes it. Cony Gardner is awesome on its own. But when it counts, it's even more. When last year was huge because the winner was in, the loser was out.
Sure.
So we're really happy that our kids don't care if it's like they're in C and we're in B or whatever it was a few years ago. We were in A and they were in B. Like when they play, you want to win. And now that it's at the end of the regular season, it still feels like it's a significant game, and it is. So it's awesome.
I'm looking forward to Winslow going to Lawrence next week. I kept hearing since I've come and been to Central Maine how great these games were in the 60s, 70s, 80s. And, thousands of people at these Winslow Lawrence games, but they haven't played a real game in almost 30 years, and now it's their chance. So I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of crowd it'll be like, and they should both be strong teams.
Yeah, I think it'll be pretty crowded there next Friday.
Yeah,
you have more perspective because you've been here longer than I have on the rivalries that are being resumed with these games. With when getting teams from across classes to play. I'm more interested and intrigued by the regional games, the regional crossovers, like the one you're having with Falmouth, and I think it's. Is it Messalonsky's playing Kennebec?
We've got Kennebec and Falmouth.
Yeah, Marshwood's going to Skowhegan this weekend.
Lawrence goes to Marshwood later in the season. Yeah. So
I just think, you're getting teams that aren't familiar with each other going at it, which just adds a compelling note to the game. But also when you get to playoff time, it's not going to be like you're taking these teams from 2 different worlds, basically. It's going to be some Team A beat Team B from across the region, and you can kind of pinpoint how they're going to play against each other. So I'm interested to see how those shake out. I think those could be really interesting games.
Like in your league, how were these crossovers determined? I know like Lawrence and Winslow and Gardner wanted to play each other, renew old rivalries, but how did you get Falmouth, for example?
So we put in like 4 teams that we'd like to play. So we obviously put Gardner down. I think we put Levitt just because I know Mike Hathaway pretty well.
Sure.
A couple spread attacks playing each other. But we also kind of graded how we thought the conference would shake out. So I think Meso ended up number 1, so they got Kennebec, who's number 1 in D South. It's interesting because we came out in 5th or 6th, and we're playing number 2 Falmouth. So some of it was just out of necessity. Falmouth has an open gate, Cony has an open date. Let's have them play. But it was some input we had. Some of it just became a matter. And obviously, we wanted to play Gardner. I'm sure Lawrence wanted to play Winslow, and vice versa. So we kind of had some input, but at the end of the day, they had to match up everyone, and so we get Falmouth, which is a nice challenge for us. But it's exciting. We've never played in school history, and a new program for us to play against, and they're a good one.
It's nice that thought went into trying to get competitive games rather than just. All right, we'll just throw these teams. Like a couple years ago, didn't they put them in a hat and say, all right, it's going to be Cony versus Biddeford or whatever?
Right,
I'm just throwing out an example.
Yeah, no, I don't think as much thought went into it then. And this year, it took a while. Like, I kept waiting for the schedule to come out, and they were like, hey, now rank this. And I'm like, okay, when are we going to get the schedule? The coach in me wants to see what we're going to have. Right. And but they took their time and then went through the process, and they made a pretty good schedule, I think.
That'd be nice. What was it, Bangor that went winless in Class A North last year? It was just random draw. Oh, you're facing Bonnie Eagle. Have fun with that.
Yeah. I don't know who that crossover is. Oh, do they have crossovers in A?
I think they're just A is crossing over with other A in North and South like they have in the past few years anyway.
Yeah.
This year, the playoff positions will be determined by heel points like every other sport in Maine high school athletics, as opposed to Crabtrees. In the past, Crabtrees more honored strength of schedule as opposed to wins. Heel points, you kind of got to get the win as well as playing the tough teams. Yeah. When I looked at it, on the MPA website, they have last year's standings by heel point, and you guys who won and got into the 6th spot and then went on to the semifinals wouldn't have even made it. You would have been passed by Mount Blue in that last weekend.
Yeah,
they had a big win over Skelly.
Yeah, they did. That would have upset us for sure. So Travis sprung that on me as I walked in. I was like, I'm glad they didn't have that last year, but I had to get like a breakdown from TJ Maines on heel points because I don't know, and he's like a guru of heel points. Sure. Really, his dad is, but so I didn't understand when we were like trying to figure out a schedule. I'm like, do we want to play a really good Class C team or a really and he was like trying to explain it, and I'm not sure I have a firm grasp on it still, but it's going to be different for sure. And I think unless you really want to get into the math, we're just going to play the games and hopefully at the end of the day go.
We don't want to turn this into a calculus class.
So we're just going to play them and see what happens. And hey, we're 5th, we're 3rd, we're out, whatever it is.
Now, I've had a couple coaches say to me, 8 games just with the way the heel points work isn't enough to get a really good, accurate assessment. Like in basketball, you're playing 18 games, and in baseball, 16, other sports, multiple games. Have you considered that at all? Or?
Yeah, because I think so. If you beat a team and then they go on to win a bunch of games, that's good for you. I think that's how that works. So with only 8 games, like you're saying, you beat a team and they go 4-4. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like there's enough time maybe to really develop the clear cut 1 through 8 or 1 through 6 making the playoffs. So. I don't know. We got enough on our plate just getting ready, so I don't worry too much about
someone comes up with another system, I think it's the best one we're going to have.
I would agree.
You don't exactly budget a day into the week of heel point explanation. It's like, all right, that's what we got.
Well, TJ sat me down for a half an hour with his abacus, and I was like, I can't. This is too much for me, so we'll just play. So.
Let someone else do that.
That's right.
All right, let's kind of look at the different classes a little bit. Class D, you probably can't speak to it as much just because you're worried about your own league, but we have the rare thing where the Class D state champion has moved up to Class C, MCI, and the Class C state champion from last year, Wells, is now in Class D. So I think that Class D South, Drew, is a juggernaut of a league. When you're looking at a Wells team that is the defending state champion, a Madison team that won 7 games in Class C last year, Winthrop, Monmouth is going to be good again. You're looking at Oak Hill, Lisbon. That's a tough league.
It was interesting as it was last year. I mean, just because of kind of what you were saying, Winthrop came out so strong, Lisbon came out so strong. You knew how good Oak Hill just is every year, and now you add that, and it just really shakes up the power structure. How good are these teams going to be against a team like Wells, which, like you said, was run through teams in Class C, and I mean, you're going to have teams that are the 4th, 5th seeds in that region. You're pretty good football teams. I mean, they might lead to some postseason upsets. But there's going to be a lot of week-to-week drama and movement around. Unless Wells just comes in and kind of
just
puts things away.
everybody.
But then Madison's there too. Madison was great in Class C as well. So I think that's going to be really, really compelling to watch. And I mean, D North has some good teams going back too. I think they lose some of the buzz losing MCI.
Yeah, there's that power vacuum that someone's got to fill.
Yeah,
Is it going to be Foxcroft, who's moving down from Class C? Is it going to be a Bucksport team that was kind of on the rise last season? Dexter's a team that's been improving year after year.
Mm-hmm.
Orno graduated, everybody basically. They graduated a huge, very talented senior class. They're going to take a step back. Is Mount View going to continue to improve? They've had 2 winning seasons in a row for the first time in the program's history. The program's history only goes back about a dozen years, but still, taking steps like that shows that there's serious football being played at Mount View now. So, should be an interesting league in the LTC, but I agree with you. I think the iron of Class D is in the South. I
think so too, and you just don't have many teams there that are really suffering from losing personnel. They're just like I say, even though Winthrop Monmouth lost some players from that team, Lisbon lost some players from that team. I think it's still a good bet those are going to be competitive squads again this year. So it just adds to the mix. It's going to be pretty competitive. And like MCI creates a vacuum in Class D North, Wells leaving Class C South kind of creates a power vacuum. Who fills that? Cape Elizabeth? I mean,
Levitt.
Levitt's really good. I'll put some pressure on Mike Hathaway, but they're really good. And his sophomore class, they got a couple of really talented tight ends. They did beat
Skowhegan in their
Yeah, they're really good, and they've he said we're going to figure out a few things offensively. Well, it seems like they've done that already. I know those games don't count, but I would watch for Levitt and Gardner. Gardner's a really talented team. Came on at the end of last year, and I think that their junior class is really talented. They had a really good freshman team last year. Jordan Hersom coached. They're now sophomores. And they beat MCI the other night. It was 0-0 at the half, and they beat them 12-0 ultimately. So I think Gardner, Levitt, Cape, like you said, are probably the contenders going in, but I'm putting all my money on Mike Hathaway. He's put a little pressure on him.
Class C North, we're going to find out first week here. One of the games of the season is in week 1 with defending champion Mount Desert Island coming down to Winslow. MDI beat Winslow 12-7 in the conference championship game last year. And Winslow's coming off a 40-0 win over a team that's supposed to contend in your league, Messalonski. Talked to Winslow head coach Mike Savitsky, and he kind of downplayed it. He said, "Yeah, we played okay that day," and, but he said it's a scrimmage, so you can't put too much stock into it.
I went to that. They're big. Oh my goodness,
they got a big line.
I haven't seen Winslow in person in a couple of years, and since we're playing Messo, it was a Saturday. I went up and. They've got some big kids and some athletes on the outside, and they're and Messo didn't play their best game by far. So and they're still going to be really good. But Winslow impressed. I was like, geez, they would do pretty well in Class B.
Yeah. And MDI and Mount Desert Island's got 3 of the 4 starters in the backfield back, including Croy Albee, who's a giant fullback, tough to bring down. Yeah. Colby Lee, a good halfback. A couple linemen back, so they're going to be a contender again. And I don't think you can count out MCI now. They've got that taste of winning. I think they're ready for the challenge, and they're going to be competitive against anyone you put them up against.
Yeah, they got a freshman quarterback. I don't know his name, but I've seen him. He's really, really talented. So keep an eye on him. Coach Bertrand is cautiously pretty optimistic about his future. So
and they just seem to be in a position where they were. I mean, they had some great players who left. Josh Bucher and players like that. They seem to be a quality program as much as a team. It depends on 2 or 3 guys to get the job done.
Winning breeds winning, and they're in the weight room all summer because the kids coming up now don't remember that 0-8 team. They remember these teams that have been winning LTC titles and the state championship last year. Yeah. In the best finish I've ever seen to a state championship game. I don't know about you guys, but
I'm partial to one in 2013, but that one
Well, yeah, you've actually got it.
That was unbelievable. I was watching
the drive you guys had 99 yards.
That was pretty good, but Bertrand's was unreal. I was watching that, and then the kid bobbled the snap and went, and then he runs it in, and he went pretty crazy on the side. That was pretty well. Were you guys there? Who was there?
We were both there.
Yeah. That was pretty amazing.
Everyone in the press box was like, "Did that just happen?" Looking at the clock, is it over? It's over.
It's over.
That was he gets the 15. There's nobody in front of him. He's gonna go in.
Yeah.
This is it.
I had to rewind it too. I was on DVR. I didn't know if it was a design fake at first. I was like, "Oh my god, what a call!" And no, he definitely bobbled it.
He reacted so quickly.
He did. Yeah.
It's not like he stood there and froze.
It is.
But this.
And it looked like
instincts.
Yeah, it did. I was like, "Oh, is that a fake?" And it wasn't, but it looked like it might have been.
My initial thought was it was a fake.
But
then I got down the field and they're like, "No, we're going to kick the field goal."
Yeah, that was pretty awesome.
We've talked about your league a little, but let's talk about it again. This wide open I think.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we did that kind of poll in the off season, and what that's worth is hard to tell. But Mesolonsky returns. Obviously, Austin Pelletier is a premier back, one of the better ones.
1,400 yards.
Yeah, about 250 against us. But he's a really good fullback, and Tyler Lewis is one, in my opinion, one of the more underrated players in the conference. Really good. I think he's playing outside linebacker this year, but another running back in that program, and Alden Balboni's back. So they've got some talent, and I think a couple of young quarterbacks and that wing T offense, and they're pretty physical on defense. Brunswick, I guess until somebody beats them, Brunswick is kind of the team to beat, and they beat Portland 35-6 the other day in their exhibition, and Portland's
a younger Brunswick team than
younger.
They only have 9 seniors.
Yeah, a really big junior class. Who they haven't really been on the field much, but there are obviously some talented kids in that group. And then Lawrence, us, Mount Blue, Skowhegan's got obviously to replace Garrett McSweeney, but they've got everyone else around him back.
Marcus Christopher, a junior quarterback, who in glimpses in last season showed he can swing the ball.
And Matt Friedman, before he left to go to Husson, was really pretty excited about his potential. And we saw him in 7-on-7, and they were tough to cover. John Bell and Sean Savage and the Barnes kid. They got some athletes out there, and so it's pretty open, I think. And then you got Hamden and I forgot one
Brewer. They graduated, 2 Division I players, and Austin Lufkin down at Wofford now, and Trey Wood at Maine.
Yeah, they are another program that's really big into powerlifting. So I watch them on like Channel 5 News. I'm like, it looks like the team they had last year. Everyone's jacked and big linemen, so they're well coached. So I think it's kind of wide open, to be honest with you, and it's going to come down to who gets some breaks and who stays healthy. And the goal is to get in that top 6 and then get to the playoffs, and anything can happen at that point. But until Brunswick's unseeded, I guess going into it, Dan Cooper and company's got to feel pretty good.
The teammate Skowhegan, new coach there, does that change things up a lot, or is it still like fair?
I think since he's been there as a defensive coordinator, and I think B.J. Dunlap will probably help call the plays as he's done in the past. I think they'll be pretty similar to what they've been, and it was such a late, it's July. So I think Ryan will just sort of stick with what they've done. In the future, if he wants to change things, if he's named the permanent head coach, if he wants to change things up, he might do that offensively. But I think they're going to stick with what they've done. They've been pretty successful with it, and they've got the athletes to be in the spread for sure. They can really rip it around. And I've seen the Christopher kid, like I said, he's a talented kid. So
And talking to Ryan Libby, the interim head coach at Skowhegan in the preseason, he was saying, look, I'm not Matt, so you might see some slightly different things.
Sure.
In-game management, maybe here or there, something like that. But he said, we're just going to stick to what the kids know. It's the best thing for the team. And
secretly, I was hoping they'd go to like the double wing or something, but I think they know they've got some athletes to throw the ball to. So they look pretty impressive in 7-on-7, and the line. I think they're breaking in some new guys, but they're going to be a team, and that's what we play week 2. So we're in an interesting situation. We play 2 spread teams the first 2 weeks, and then we get into the wing T, 2 tight. So it's almost like 2 seasons. You defend, with a 4-3, and then all of a sudden you got to load the box against the Brunswicks and Brewers of the world. So I'm glad it's that rather than playing in weeks 1 and 5 and kind of shifting gears a couple times. So for 2 weeks we're like defending the pass, and then for the next 6 we're like
those first 2 weeks
chin straps, and
going to be some long nights.
Yeah, those could be some long
11
nights.
o'clock finishes.
What time do you guys have your deadlines in? Yeah, so
writing that story on my phone in the car.
Start writing it in the third quarter.
B South. Kennebec defending champ. You feel like they're the team to beat again? You
got
a good, tough Falmouth team. Biddeford.
Yeah. And I think Marshwood's kind of underrated team. They finished here. They almost beat Kennebec last year in the playoffs. And for my money, that Alex Rothko is the best coach in the state of Maine. And won,
6 wins last year, and they called it down.
and 9 or 10, what they call Super Bowls down at Longmeadow High School in Massachusetts. So I think he's, with Wolfgram now, I guess as a defensive coordinator only, he's unquestionably for me the best head coach in the state, and I think he gets a lot out of that team. But you're right, Kennebec returns a ton. Another Di Lorenzo, we played against his older brother,
right?
And the Bush kid at quarterback, and they're really well coached. Coach Rafferty does a great job. So that conference too has got some talent. But in Falmouth, as we open with them, we've seen some film on them, and they're wide open, spread attack, no huddle. So it'll be a challenge for us. But that B South is competitive as well.
Good quarterback back for Falmouth. Yeah.
Well, my dad had to correct me because Jack Bryant's only a 3-year starter. Because 4 years ago it was Noah Nelson, who's now at Bowdoin.
Right.
So he's like, it wasn't a 4-year starter. I said maybe a 4-year starter. I said 3-year, maybe. I couldn't remember. So he corrected me. But yeah, he's a 3-year starter. I think his dad played like option quarterback at UMass in the 80s. I think I read that in an article about him. But he's a hoop kid. He's just a really good athlete. And they put the ball in his hands as they should and let him make decisions. And as a senior starter, he's clearly one of the better, if not players in the state of Maine, one of the better quarterbacks for sure. So we've watched a lot of film on him this week, and we definitely have our work cut out for us, but we think we've got some athletes in the secondary to at least try to slow him down. We said, hey, he's going to hit some. It's just a matter of time until he hit some. We just hope he doesn't hit a lot of them. So that'll be a fun atmosphere on Friday night.
Well, you guys have the athletes who can hit on a few yourself. So
yeah, and we'll get Jordan back Friday night. Jordan Roddy's we kind of held him out just because he had surgery in the off season. He's been cleared for activities, but. It's kind of funny. We were talking as a staff. We went the whole summer without him, 7-on-7, and obviously he's one of the better, wide receivers, if not the best wide receiver in the state. And then, he's at practice, but he hasn't played in the scrimmage or the exhibition. Right. So finally, I'm like, we get to see him play football on Friday night. And almost in your head, you're like looking at your team and not even factoring him in. So on Friday night, we were like, geez, we played pretty well, and we add Jordan into the mix, and we get a little bit more diverse on offense, and he can do some things that just nobody else can do. So it's up to us to manufacture some touches for him. And give him a chance to do what he does. So whether that's flipping it to him, throwing it to him, handing it to him, letting him return every kickoff and punt, he's got to get touches, and that's up to us as a coaching staff to figure out how to do that.
Class A South, I think, is where the strength is in Class A. Again, I was talking to Kevin Cooper at the Skowhegan Big Man competition, the head coach of Bonnie Eagle over the summer, and I kind of jokingly said, well, I see you at Fitzy in November. And he was like, well, I think we have a good team back, but Thornton Academy is going to be very good again, and Scarborough is a team to watch out for. Yeah,
I worked with Kevin at our passing camp this summer, and he brought out some of his guys. They've got a tight end, Arlo Pike, that's like 6'4", 260. He's a big athletic kid that can play. And the Connor Soroy's breaking in a new quarterback and came close to playing last year ahead of the day kid, but he played safety. So Kevin's pretty confident in the group he has, and that program just churns out a great player after great player. He's if Rotzko's not the best coach, Kevin Cooper's pretty darn good. And Scarborough, last year obviously upset TA. Right. They've got I think it's Pignani's the kid's last name, the quarterback, a tailback number 31. I can't remember his name right now, but was really really good. And I was really surprised at how multiple they were on offense. They come out and I wing, and then they're in the spread, and so defensively that's quite a challenge. Sometimes the team's only in the spread like us. You can kind of figure out how you plan to defend it. And Scarborough mixes things really, really well as anyone I've seen, and that's going to be a challenge. And they've got the athletes this year. A Lagerquist kid, a tight end that's like 6'6", 6'7". So they've got that'll be a really competitive group, and that's not even talking about TA, who's hasn't lost too many games in the past 4 or 5 years combined. So that's going to be competitive.
A North Portland still looking like kind of the team to beat there, as far as you know.
I don't know. I know they graduated quite a bit, including the quarterback, a few other guys, and Brunswick just played them really tough the other night. Wyndham, I think is pretty good. I've heard good things about Oxford Hills, to be honest with you. I've heard their numbers are kind of growing a little bit. So I don't know as much about A North, to be honest with you, as I do A South, just because I haven't talked to a head coach per se. But I think Portland, I guess, until kind of like Brunswick, until someone beats them, you kind of pencil them in as maybe the team to beat. But I wouldn't be surprised if somebody else came in there and knocked them off this year.
We kind of hit on your game against Falmouth this weekend. Drew, what's a game you're looking forward to here in week 1?
A couple. One I'm really looking forward to seeing is Wells and Winthrop Monmouth, just because it's Wells' first game there, and it's kind of that litmus test in a way to see how they're going to be doing against. I mean, who knows what Winthrop Monmouth is going to be? It's going to be a power in D South, but we'll see. Like if Wells comes in and really runs up the score or something, well then we'll know that they're the team to beat. If they come in as a competitive game, well then we really got a good race coming here. So it's just going to be just the whole novelty of the C team playing in D. And the other one is Messalonsky Brunswick. It's the power from last year versus the team a lot of people are saying is the power this year. We'll see just how good Brunswick still is. They're without Hunter Garrett and Jesse Devereaux. They both graduated.
Thank God.
Right. And so is Messalonsky now going to do to them what Brunswick was doing to everybody else last year, or is it going to be a competitive game? I think we'll learn a lot about those teams in this first week. How about you?
For me, it's this game on Saturday, Mount Desert Island at Winslow, rematch of a conference championship game, which is rare this early in the season. Talking to Winslow coach Mike Savitsky, he said, you get your schedule, you play your schedule. He kind of downplayed it like he kind of downplays everything. Right. But Mark Shields, the head coach at MDI, and talking to him on Tuesday night, he said, you find out a lot about your football team when you play a program as strong as Winslow in the first week. And if you want to be good, this is a kind of a bellwether game early. How's our season going to go? So I expect that to be just an old-fashioned, both teams want to run, establish a run. MDI is going to line up in that tee and dare you to stop it.
That game will be over in an hour and 5 minutes. So
I got a fantasy draft at 8:30 on Saturday night, so here's hoping. And another one, I'm kind of interested to see how much Waterville has improved. I saw them against Belfast in a scrimmage a little bit. They looked like they had improved off an 0-8 season last year, and they went up to Holton and had a win in an exhibition game last Friday night, making the long trip to the county. But they play Mount Blue, an old rival. They haven't played each other since 2012 in the PTCB championship, the last year of just 3 classes before it went to 4. And I'm just interested to see how the steps that Coach Gilly and his staff have made with Waterville.
Mm-hmm. Well, they got a good quarterback, Jack Thompson.
Yes.
He's a pretty good player, big kid, got a big arm. So I haven't seen what they're doing with him offensively, but that's somebody to build around. I think he's only a junior, so they got him for the next couple of years. So that's a good place to start if you're trying to kind of come up from a weaker season.
Okay. That's going to be it for us. If you're watching on Facebook, thanks for watching. If you're listening on the podcast, thanks for listening. We'll be back next week. You can follow us all season on centralmaine.com. And remember, the fall tab, fall sports preview, comes out on Friday, September 1st. All your information on football, soccer, field hockey, cross country, and golf in Central Maine High School sports. I'm Travis Lazarczyk from Drew Bonifant and our guest, BL Lippert. Thanks for watching and listening, and we'll see you next time on Gridiron and Groove.